Welcome to INN CEO Talks. Joining me today is Ian Harris, the president and CEO of Libero Copper Gold, which trades on the TSX Venture under the symbol LBC. Mr. Harris is a mining engineer with over 20 years experience leading mining projects globally, including over 15 years of working and living in South America. Previously, he served as the CEO of AMAC Mining and Para Resources. Mr. Harris was also the Senior VP and Country Manager of Corrienta Resources. And while he was there, he saw the project from feasibility to initial engineering and commencement of construction at the Mirador mine in Ecuador. He also successfully led the company to reactivate Corrienta's mining projects in Ecuador by building national and local support and navigating the company through the country's new constitution and new mining laws. And ultimately, the company was sold for $690 million. Libero Copper Gold, which Mr. Harris now leads, is a mineral exploration company that holds a collection of porphyry gold and copper deposits throughout the Americas in the prolific but stable jurisdictions, in many prolific but stable jurisdictions. The portfolio includes Big Bulk, Big Red, Esperanza, and Mocoa. Ian, thank you for joining me once again on INN CEO Talks. You're in Medellin, Colombia, which I understand you're in the midst of a rather significant thunderstorm, so we may hear thunder roll in from time to time. But, sort of bring us up to date where you are with the company, how the stock's performing, and the projects that you're working on.
Yeah, I asked for this thunderstorm right now just to give a little bit of that Halloween spirit, to get us ready for November. But the truth is, I've been in Colombia since June of this year, pretty much full time, because I think that alludes to a lot of where we can create a lot of significant value for the company. And it's a real pleasure to be sitting here today because we've had a few interviews and really talked about the portfolios, the strategy, all this work we're going to do, and coming back today and really having our nose right up against some significant, what those efforts are revealing. Because now we're executing. We've been executing on the ground at Big Red since July, drilling, finished 4,500 meters, and we expect drill results to be coming out starting next week. At Mocoa here in Colombia, working so hard, and we talked a lot about the social aspect and applying that knowledge and lessons learned from that time spent in Ecuador. And just last week we finished our first geophysics survey for magnetics and LiDAR, and starting up to do soil sampling. So now the results are coming out. It's really a confirmation that our strategies were pretty solid, and now we're executing them, and results are following.
So you are in three different jurisdictions, though. You're in British Columbia, you're in Colombia, and you're in Argentina. What is it about that combination of jurisdictions for the different projects that helps to give you sort of a robust portfolio that will be of interest to investors?
Yeah, so the company in many ways has been modeled to kind of step one was acquiring the assets, make sure that they all come together, making that it was a little bit of a window to be able to get some really solid assets in great jurisdictions and in very similar time zones. That makes it a whole lot easier to manage when you're a smaller company, and then make sure we have the strong team that can execute not only on a director level, but also the boots on the ground to be able to execute quite efficiently. So I'm really proud of what we've been able to do because obviously we're going to be continuously working on multiple projects and creating continuous value for our shareholders. And really, I mean, if you look around the copper space, there's very few companies that might have one asset, and we're sitting on three significant assets that all could create several multiples of value for where we're sitting today.
Well, I know that in British Columbia, you're up near the Shaft Creek region, are you not? Which is really, really rich in copper. And it looks like it's going to be very significant, especially as we look at what the copper demand is going to be over the next 8 or 9 years, with very, as you pointed out, very few large-scale potential projects in the mix. Tell us a little bit about those, and then let's come back down to Colombia and then wrap up in Argentina.
So, you alluded to a lot at the beginning, saying I'm a mining engineer, and I have a mining engineer perspective. That means even if we're just post-discovery, we're looking and making sure that these projects have the potential to become large-scale open pit copper mines, because that's where 90% of all world's copper comes from. So we want to be spending our money on projects that can really become future mines. So this year at Big Red, we really focused. We had a short discovery hole at the end of last year. And so we said, okay, well, these are the boxes we want to check. We want to make sure it has size and scale. We want to make sure that that grade continues at depth, right? To make sure, okay, it's forming to look like something that can really be a future potential mine. And so that's what we really executed on, and are very excited. Visually, it looks like mineralization has continued over 500 meters at the deposit, which is really checking the boxes to say this is going to be a bona fide potential future open pit copper mine. And if you look at parallels, right, geologically, it looks a lot like Galore. I really like the comparables to GT Gold, because it was a very clear path of how to create value for your shareholders in terms of grade, in terms of size. They did 30,000 meters, put out a resource estimate, sold for $450 million. So we know that, hey, if we do something pretty similar, we know what our value should be. If you look down south at Mocoa, which is Colombia, it's a little bit of a different story. It's more like the Mirador story, because it's in the same Jurassic porphyry belt, and obviously why I really enjoy working on the project after all the years of experience in South America. And really, I feel like it's going from, the playing field's more like T-ball, right? Because Colombia has a president who says, I want to be the third largest producer of copper in South America. You have ministers like, Ian, what can we do to attract even more investment? And it's just it's such a different feeling, really, than what was faced before. But it hasn't changed our strategy on ensuring that you're creating strength locally, nationally, and continuing to create political will. I mean, and genuine relationships on the ground. But it's a 636 million ton deposit. That's a 90,000 ton per day mine over 20 years already, and it's only just really, really beginning. It's got so many parallels to Warintza, which was 50 kilometers north of Mirador, where Mocoa is just on the other side of the border in Colombia from Ecuador. Because we both, we studied, last drilling on our project was 2012. Last drilling on their project was 2001. First thing we did is updated our resource estimate, or did a resource estimate. Ours is much bigger, but they had a very high grade, smaller deposit. If you look at our cutoff and apply the same cutoff, we get the same grade and pretty much the same tons, same scale. Same potential. So we're really excited because, Solaris is worth $1 billion today. So we knew that to unlock the value of the project, you have to focus on creating strength and creating that social license. And that's what we've been doing. We really started hitting the ground hard in July after getting our house into order. And now it's delivering results. We're now doing our geophysics. We're now doing our soil stamping, and we're going to be drilling on it at any moment. We're currently planning to be drilling on the project in the first quarter of 2020.
So Ian, you have experience going from exploration through to development and actually launching the mine. Is that your plan here, or do you have are you open to options? Are you also looking at potentially vending in with a major?
So I get asked that question a lot, and I say it really doesn't matter. We're going to act like we're going to build it, no matter what, because that's the attitude you have to have, even if you ended up somebody wants to build it more than you, right? It's more than just geology, right? You have to make sure you're advancing it from an engineering, from a social, from an environmental perspective. You're covering all your bases, you're de-risking it. And if you have the mentality that you're going to build it, you're going to do that work, right? So that if somebody comes in, I believe that once the majors get off their dividend frenzy, right? They're eventually somebody's going to raise their hand and start talking about growth, and then the first company that does it, their share price is going to go up, and then everybody's shareholders are going to go, "What about growth?" And we want to make sure that we have the most advanced projects possible with that, not just the deposit, but it's got the nice golden ribbon around it. It's, got nice red paper, because that is what it takes to make sure that you're getting the value for your shareholders on your project. So like Mocoa is a great example. On the very first holes, we're going to be doing redoing metallurgical test work. We're going to be doing the geotech work that supports future engineering. We're already doing the work required to maintain a sustainable social license. So we're very excited that we're going to be way ahead of the pack. And so, yes, we going in like we're going to build it, even if it means that somebody wants to build it more than us.
So in the remaining time that we have right now, investors are always asking, okay, why? And this is your chance for your pitch, of course, but why now? Why should I get behind your company at this point?
So much has been done in the company since the beginning of the year, right? The Big Red discovery was in December of 2020. We've picked up 2 additional assets. About 50% of over 50% of the directors, the majority of management, all came on board in January and February, put the stream together, immediately did the financing, got everything together, and put together a really solid strategy. We know what we're doing, we know how we execute, and we're keeping our eyes open. We know that what we could be facing and being ready for it and prepared for that, right? But the big reason to invest now is, okay, we've got our house in order. Now we're making sure that we're getting the story out. We're making sure everybody knows, because results are coming out, right? Right now we have drill results coming out from Big Red next week. It's pretty obvious what's going to be coming next with Mocoa, right? I believe that this is probably the best time to buy shares of the company, because anytime in the future, they're going to cost more.
Earlier this year we saw copper prices rise and they dipped down a little bit. They appear to be coming back up again. And how is that impacting your plans? And also, what do you think the consequences of that rising rate for copper are going to have on the demand to accelerate development?
So the truth is that we try and look for projects that are independent of any sort of cycle, right? That's what's really required. I mean, again, I'm a mining engineer. I understand what it takes to have economically feasible projects, and so we apply that, make sure we're working on projects that have that long lifetime potential. But obviously, the copper price is very supportive and wind on our backs, and a little serendipitous right now what's going on in copper price, but I think most people recognize that it's going to have to take a way higher copper price to really accelerate any sort of development schedule, right? It's really, I mean, look at where copper price is right now. It's at $4.70, and I haven't seen any majors saying green lighting constructions of new copper projects, right? So it's telling us a lot, right? I think I belong to a think tank that talks a lot about copper supply, and you have the big constructors going, nobody's building anything. And I'm going, it takes 20 years sometimes to get a mine up and running. And then you have the buyers and they're saying, well, we have an offtake agreement for 2 years. And so that's about all we care about. So that's good enough. And it's pretty obvious there's going to be a significant collision. Even if we didn't have the whole sustainable energy component layered on top of it, it was already a major issue. So, what we do is we keep our head to the ground and make sure we advance our projects as quickly as possible and be ready, right? We're never going to be able to pick the exact point, but I know that we're going to have some of the best projects out there whenever that does happen.
Well, I think that you touched on an interesting point there as well. We know that intersection between supply and demand is not too far off. And while the supply may be a little bit ahead of demand at the moment, it's not going to stay that way for much longer because there's too many factors that are at play. And without copper, you can't electrify the world the way that people want us to.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And then a lot of things that people don't understand is that there's not really a replacement. There's only one metal that actually has less resistance than copper. It's called silver. So unless you want to make silver wires, so you can tell how the distance that copper has to run before those serious replacement issues come up. I mean, it's a basis to our society, right? I mean, it's not lost on me why people are saying, copper is the new oil, right? I mean, it's going to be the basis for our economies moving forward, and we want to make sure that we're positioned to help supply that future copper.
Well, you've got some exciting projects underway right now, and I'm hoping that you'll come back in a few months and give us another update, because I know I'm keen to know how it's going, because I'm paying close attention to this copper sector, and I think that you're in a very attractive spot. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. It's always an enjoyable time here.
Great.